What it does is it requires Baldoni to prove a higher burden than he would otherwise have to prove in this defamation lawsuit.
If and when their defamation lawsuit is dismissed.
No one saw it coming. One day, Blake Lively was the darling of Hollywood and the internet's favorite comedic better half to actor Ryan Reynolds. The next, she found herself trapped in a whirlwind of lawsuits, counter-lawsuits, and explosive allegations against co-director Justin Baldoni. In an industry where image is currency, few expected a dispute so turbulent that it would grip the headlines and threaten to tear down reputations, careers, and trusted partnerships. Yet here we are. This story began innocently enough on the set of a high-profile film project, until rumors, media leaks, and a brand new Me Too legal measure turned everything upside down. Now, watchers from all corners of Hollywood are left stunned, whispering the same question. How did a beloved star become embroiled in a legal fiasco that may cost her everything she's worked for? In the beginning, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni appeared to share a unified vision. They were meant to collaborate on a film adaptation of a best-selling novel, generating considerable hype among fans and insiders alike. People on social media praised the pairing, imagining a perfect balance of Hollywood star power and behind-the-scenes craftsmanship. The excitement was genuine. Baldoni had built a reputation as a thoughtful creator, and Lively had proven she could be more than just a red carpet sensation. But even before the camera started rolling, subtle tensions began to surface. One day, rumors emerged that Lively was questioning the tone of certain scenes. Another day, murmurs spread that Baldoni felt he was losing authority over directorial decisions. Though no one publicly acknowledged a dispute at first, cast and crew members started noticing a shift. Private meetings, hushed conversations, and carefully orchestrated script read-throughs that never seemed to settle any real issues. When staff on set tried to shrug it off as typical Hollywood friction, they were blindsided by a wave of behind-closed-doors arguments about creative control. Lively's suggestions for wardrobe and character arcs clashed with Baldoni's approach to pacing and shot composition. Although these differences were standard in a film production, the tension between the two key figures seemed to escalate with each passing day. Those who worked on the project have since confided, off the record of course, that the atmosphere grew palpably uneasy. Little did they know, this was just the spark before the real firestorm. The first public sign of serious trouble came when rumors broke that Lively had filed a complaint alleging workplace misconduct. Initially, many shrugged it off as tabloid fodder. Why would someone as universally admired as Blake Lively, an outspoken advocate for women's issues and mental health, wait so long to address serious misconduct claims if they were truly happening? Within days, though, these rumors morphed into official statements circulating online. Lively had indeed lodged a complaint with California's Civil Rights Department. Her accusations pointed directly at Justin Baldoni and alleged he had created a hostile work environment. The word harassment quickly stuck in the public's mind. Many who admired Lively were appalled, while others questioned the authenticity of the claims. The entire set was thrown into a maelstrom of shock and confusion. In some ways, it was a classic "she said," but with millions of dollars on the line and two star names caught in the crossfire, it became anything but simple. Baldoni's response came swiftly and forcefully. He and his team countersued for defamation, claiming that Lively's misconduct allegations were malicious and designed to sabotage his reputation. They called her complaint a legal tactic meant to overshadow creative disagreements. Suddenly, the gentle image of Blake Lively, often seen joking with her husband on social media, took a backseat to a narrative alleging manipulation and cunning legal strategy. Before the public could catch its breath, the lawsuit snowballed into a massive spectacle, pulling more people and more money into its orbit. At the heart of Lively's legal position lay Section 47.1 of the California Code of Civil Procedure, a law enacted on January 1, 2024, which was intended to protect individuals who disclose harassment or assault allegations from defamation countersuits. To many observers, the timing of Lively's complaint was curious. It landed right after the law came into effect, almost as though her team had been waiting for the ink on the statute to dry. She invoked this newly minted legal shield, claiming it protected her from Baldoni's countersuit. In other words, if an individual makes a good faith accusation of harassment, Section 47.1 can bar the accused from retaliating via defamation claims. In theory, it's a well-meaning law. Survivors of harassment shouldn't be terrorized by the fear of an expensive defamation case. However, there's a catch. The statute covers only good faith allegations. those made without malice. Critics of Lively's approach argued that she had possibly weaponized this law, twisting its original goal, protecting genuine victims, into a tool to dodge accountability. Baldoni and his lawyers insisted her allegations were false, motivated by a desire to wrest control of the film and secure new creative privileges. Complicating things further was a glaring detail. The events Lively complained about allegedly took place in New York, not California. How, then, did she justify filing under California's jurisdiction? While the intricacies of interstate law can be arcane, legal experts quickly questioned her strategy. Many suggested that Lively simply picked California because it offered that brand new legal force field, ignoring the fact that courts generally aren't keen on awarding a home court advantage to celebrities who forum shop. Around the time her allegations surfaced, rumors spread that Lively had clashed repeatedly with Baldoni over everything from camera angles to editing decisions. At first, these disagreements were minor frustrations typical in any collaborative project, but soon, they escalated into full-blown battles over who held ultimate authority. According to Baldoni's first amended complaint, Lively demanded not just creative input, but also a form of veto power over major filmmaking choices. The tension boiled over when Lively's concerns about her on-screen appearance came to light. In one instance, Baldoni reportedly entered her trailer to discuss costume changes and camera angles. Such a meeting is standard in film production, yet Lively later spun it as a humiliating confrontation about her looks, an example, she claimed, of harassment. The discrepancy in these accounts fueled suspicions. Was it a routine discussion about costuming, or was it a demeaning invasion of her personal space? Perhaps the most puzzling dimension was how Lively seemed cheerful and unbothered on set, dancing in behind-the-scenes footage with Baldoni. Clips later leaked online, showing them laughing and joking between takes. Skeptics seized on these moments, asking how someone claiming to feel targeted and unsafe could be so relaxed. Lively's defenders countered that abusers can hide behind cordial interactions, but the storyline still seemed hazy. The more the public learned about the project's on-set atmosphere, the murkier everything became. Some might say it was only a matter of time before Ryan Reynolds, famous for his quick wit and comedic social media presence, took a more aggressive stance in his wife's defense. But few anticipated the scathing commentary he'd unleash. Rumors circulated that Reynolds privately called Baldoni a predator, allegedly telling industry contacts that Baldoni's behavior on set was beyond the pale. Suddenly, the story was no longer a two-person dispute. Reynolds' star power and charm risked swaying public opinion, or so many believed. However, Reynolds' involvement went further than whispered insults. Legal documents indicated he sought to bolster Lively's allegations by backing her version of events, and by painting Baldoni as a manipulative presence. Critics noticed that Reynolds' statements seemed to lack concrete evidence, amounting largely to personal attacks. Baldoni's legal team pounced on this, claiming Reynolds was weaponizing rumor and hyperbole, effectively tarnishing Baldoni's name in powerful Hollywood circles without offering factual proof. Around this time, an intriguing nugget of gossip emerged. Reynolds allegedly modeled a deranged cameo in a comedy sketch on Baldoni's mannerisms. It was rumored to be an inside joke among certain industry players. Though this claim floated around unverified, it fueled speculation that Reynolds was venting frustration through any creative outlet he could. Instead of diffusing tensions, the rumor poured more gasoline on the inferno raging between Lively, Baldoni, and their respective fans and colleagues. Even more baffling was a list widely nicknamed the 17 Demands. Sources close to the film's production hinted that Lively had delivered a set of non-negotiable conditions before she'd returned to filming, especially after the writers' strike ended. Some demands reportedly included changes to filming schedules and script rewrites that gave her character added prominence or more flattering angles. Others addressed financial and production aspects that typically lie outside an actor's purview. This led to speculation that Lively was angling for a power grab, leveraging allegations of harassment to reshape the entire creative process around her. Baldoni's side labeled it a hostile takeover. Supporters of Lively argued these requirements were necessary boundaries to make her feel safe on set. Yet, the daily life of the production team became a nightmare as they scrambled to appease star requests that seemed less about protecting personal well-being and more about controlling the final product. Grips and camera operators found themselves repeating shots for hours just to adjust a detail Lively requested. Some insiders quietly questioned whether she was still fully invested in the film's success, or whether the entire project was simply a bargaining chip in a larger power play. Once the story hit the public, it caught fire. Overnight, fans were scrambling to pick sides. Lively had cultivated a genuine public image as witty, charming, and unwaveringly family-oriented. People found it hard to reconcile that persona with the notion of her orchestrating a far-reaching legal strategy for personal gain. Others, however, saw in her actions a cynical attempt at using the Me Too momentum to overshadow creative disagreements. Baldoni, once lauded for his progressive stances and philanthropic endeavors, found his name entangled in scandal. Though he received vocal support from some industry professionals who'd worked with him, he was simultaneously labeled problematic by those who blindly backed Lively's allegations. In certain corners of social media, the conflict resembled a referendum on how well the Me Too movement handles contested claims, especially when they involve A-list celebrities who wield immense resources and influence. Commentators on platforms like YouTube, podcasts, and talk shows dissected every newly leaked document or snippet of rumor. Some believed Lively, others questioned her. A few tried to maintain neutrality, insisting that the courts, not the public, must decide. In the end, public opinion was in flux, leaving both sides with devoted followers and equally fervent critics. The entire fiasco became a cautionary tale about the power, both righteous and destructive, of allegations when amplified by star-driven media frenzies. Before long, Baldoni upped the ante. He filed a countersuit for defamation, doubling down on accusations that Lively had fabricated or grossly exaggerated her claims. His legal team spelled out the concept of actual malice, arguing that Lively's statements to the press and her official complaint were made with the intent to harm him. According to the countersuit, her entire narrative was not a spontaneous outcry, but a meticulously planned PR strategy, unleashed only after she failed to secure creative control on the film. Baldoni's lawyers pointed out that if a jury were to find Lively orchestrated a smear campaign, it would demolish her reliance on Section 47.1. Moreover, the countersuit linked Lively's claims to Ryan Reynolds' alleged efforts to brand Baldoni as a predator, suggesting a coordinated assault on Baldoni's character. With the countersuit's filing, each side was forced to fortify legal defenses. Evidence poured in: depositions, on-set video clips, leaked text messages. The public got glimpses of bizarre contradictions: a so-called harassed star cheerfully giggling with her alleged harasser on camera, a big-budget film spinning its wheels in chaos, a glamorous Hollywood marriage seemingly untroubled by a scandal that threatened to overshadow both spouses' careers. Observers realized that if Baldoni could prove actual malice, he might walk away with a massive financial verdict. Conversely, if Lively's defense team validated her complaint as a genuine fear of harassment, Baldoni could be on the hook for her legal costs, treble damages, and punitive fees. The stakes soared with each new motion filed in court. At the heart of Lively's argument lay a fundamental weakness. Why was she filing under California law if the alleged incidents happened in New York? Even casual legal watchers know that courts usually frown upon forum shopping, especially when done by someone with star power and ample resources. Legal analysts started to poke holes in Lively's approach, calling it sloppy at best and manipulative at worst. Baldoni's team seized this vulnerability. They contended that if the core events and principal figures were based in New York, then New York law should apply. That single shift would undermine Lively's entire motion to dismiss. While 47.1 might protect a Californian from defamation litigation based on harassment disclosures, New York has no such provision. If the court followed that reasoning, Lively's prized legal shield could vanish in an instant. Meanwhile, Lively's lawyers argued that certain relevant business negotiations took place in Los Angeles, giving them enough hooks to claim California jurisdiction. Critics called it a tenuous argument that might not survive a judge's closer scrutiny. The next question was whether the judge would greenlight or dismantle Lively's entire defensive strategy. If she lost on jurisdiction grounds, the lawsuit would become far more dangerous for her. While Lively's attorneys attempted a polished approach, Ryan Reynolds seemed to take a far more dramatic route. His lawyers filed a motion that observers described as bombastic, replete with heated language and pointed digs at Baldoni's character. Rather than calm the waters, Reynolds' filing came off as overly personal and aggressive, leaving many to wonder if it was a sincere attempt to defend his wife or an outburst of frustration. Legal experts warned that such an approach could inflame tensions further, making any settlement unlikely. Some read Reynolds' combative strategy as a gamble. Apply enough public pressure on Baldoni to force an early resolution. But in high-stakes litigation, especially when capturing national headlines, hostile grandstanding can backfire. Judges typically prefer concise, fact-based pleadings over theatrical diatribes. Plus, Baldoni, backed by a billionaire partner, showed no sign of caving. If Reynolds' tactic was intimidation, it didn't appear to be working. While the real battleground was the federal court docket, the court of public opinion raged on in parallel. The Me Too context added another layer. People who have championed the movement questioned whether Lively's claims were legitimate or opportunistic. Others worried that labeling her accusations as disingenuous might chill genuine survivors from coming forward. The stakes of being wrong, either way, were massive. Commentators and fans alike turned into amateur sleuths, analyzing every snippet of evidence. Some empathized with Lively, suggesting that her laughter on set might have been forced politeness or fear-driven compliance. Others insisted the behind-the-scenes videos showed a relaxed professional environment, not the terror Lively described in her complaints. Podcasters dissected text messages, social media clues, and cryptic remarks from associates. Show hosts took sides or played devil's advocate, fueling a runaway conversation that overshadowed many other Hollywood controversies at the time. Everywhere, the question loomed. Was Lively a victim pushing back against silent intimidation? Or was she orchestrating an elaborate ruse to seize creative control? Away from the cameras, the strain on everyone involved skyrocketed. Baldoni, known for philanthropic initiatives, publicly mentioned feeling betrayed and exhausted. Members of the film's cast and crew echoed the sentiment, recalling how a promising project had become overshadowed by legal meltdown. Lively, in turn, seemed less visible in promotional events, fueling speculations that she was in PR crisis mode, struggling to reconcile her public persona with the gravity of a lawsuit that refused to dissipate. Financially, the costs soared. Each new motion, deposition, and hearing demanded an army of lawyers. Baldoni's production partners reportedly spent upward of $1 million just defending themselves against multiple 12b-6 motions. Meanwhile, Lively and Reynolds, though wealthy, risked hemorrhaging money to keep top legal counsel on retainer. The potential of paying treble damages and attorneys' fees weighed heavily on Baldoni, while Lively faced the prospect of a tarnished reputation should a jury rule that her claims were maliciously fabricated. Nothing stokes a scandal quite like leaked documents. In this case, it seemed as though each side leaked just enough to paint the other in a worse light. At one point, an internal memo from Lively's team surfaced, suggesting that she and her lawyers considered waiting until the new year to file her complaint, aligning perfectly with the enactment of Section 47.1. Baldoni's supporters pounced on this as proof she'd planned to exploit the law from the start. Simultaneously, partial transcripts of Baldoni's messages to the New York's Times surfaced, indicating he might have been courting the media in his own effort to control the narrative. While these leaks didn't prove wrongdoing, they underscored the lengths both sides were willing to go to shape public perception. Experts predicted that if either side had hoped for a quiet settlement, those chances were shrinking by the day. Once a scandal crosses a certain threshold of media saturation, it often becomes too big to hush up. Central to Baldoni's defamation claim is the concept of actual malice. It's a high bar in legal terms. To win, he must show that Lively either knew her statements were false or recklessly disregarded the truth. For many, it's a puzzle. Could Lively possibly be so bold as to manufacture her allegations, knowing she'd need convincing evidence to avoid a countersuit? Or was she genuinely harmed, only to be doubted because Baldoni was charismatic and well-liked? This question, more than anything, has fueled heated debates. If a jury concludes that Lively's allegations are rooted in genuine fear or a legitimate perception of wrongdoing, Baldoni's countersuit could crumble. But if they suspect she orchestrated these claims to force creative changes, the financial blowback against her could still be minimal thanks to 47.1, unless the court finds the entire matter was brought in bad faith. In that scenario, her entire shield disintegrates like a house of cards. Hollywood's reaction has been split, reflecting both the complexity of the situation and the unpredictability of who might stand in solidarity with whom. Some A-listers quietly signaled support for Lively, especially those who have had their own run-ins with alleged harassment or creative exploitation. Others lined up behind Baldoni, praising his integrity and philanthropic track record. A third group has remained conspicuously silent, likely wary of stepping into a controversy that could come back to haunt them. Rumors circulated of hush-hush calls being made, urging rising stars not to comment publicly. Big agencies like WME or CAA might be reluctant to offend either side, given that Lively, Reynolds, and Baldoni each command significant influence. The business of Hollywood is built on relationships, and one ill-timed tweet or interview might destroy carefully cultivated alliances. Observers remarked that the tension behind closed doors was almost as thick as it was on social media. With so many legal maneuvers at play, motions to dismiss, counterclaims, subpoenas, depositions, both parties found themselves tangled in a labyrinth of procedural deadlines. Delays became common. Judges granted extra time to sift through thousands of pages of evidence. Each extension wound the clock further, raising attorney fees and fueling public curiosity about whether this standoff was anywhere near a resolution. Speculation arose about a potential settlement, yet repeated attempts at mediation reportedly fell apart. Baldoni's lawyers refused to budge on the defamation claim, insisting that Lively and Reynolds publicly acknowledge the alleged harm they caused. Lively's side stood firm, saying she had every right to call out perceived harassment without fear of legal reprisal. By early 2025, whispers suggested an eventual trial date might be inevitable, and once the case hit open court, every detail would become part of the official record, including testimonies from cast, crew, and maybe even well-known Hollywood figures who'd gotten wind of the disputes. While the storms kept swirling around Lively, Baldoni was far from secure. If he fails to prove malice, he risks drowning in legal fees. Under Section 47.1, a failed defamation claim could mean paying not just Lively's attorney's fees, but potentially triple and punitive damages. That looming possibility weighed heavily on him, especially as each new motion drained more financial resources, even if partially underwritten by the billionaire backer at Baldoni's production company. Critics of Lively's approach call 47.1 a loaded weapon, giving an accuser an asymmetric advantage in court. The law was meant to champion genuine victims, yet it could become a sledgehammer for a star with enough cunning to bend it to her benefit. If Baldoni loses, his reputation might forever be stained as the accused harasser who tried and failed to sue for defamation, even if no jury specifically found him guilty of wrongdoing. Hollywood rarely gives second chances to those branded with that stigma. Though Section 47.1 may seem like a golden parachute, it's not foolproof. If a court decides that Lively knowingly leveled false accusations to manipulate creative control, she could lose that protective armor. At that point, Baldoni's countersuit might bulldoze through any defenses her legal team tries to muster. The dreaded word malice floats overhead like a storm cloud, proving it isn't easy, but if proven, it's devastating. The fallout wouldn't be purely financial. Lively has curated a persona as a woman's advocate, deeply involved in philanthropic ventures and revered by many as a role model. A decisive ruling against her would deliver a harsh blow to that image. Fans might see her as someone who cynically exploited a genuine movement for personal gain, and corporate sponsors who once clamored for her endorsement could flee at the first whiff of scandal. While celebrities often bounce back from controversies, allegations of bad faith Me Too claims carry a uniquely corrosive sting. This conflict has forced many to reassess the entire Me Too landscape. On one hand, the movement has empowered countless survivors to share their stories without fear of intimidation. On the other hand, critics warn that unscrupulous individuals might hijack these legal protections for strategic advantage. Lively's case, with its swirling mix of glitz, possible opportunism, and unverified claims, embodies those concerns on a large stage. Some fear it could create a chilling effect. Producers and directors might become hesitant to address performance or costume issues with certain actors, worried that any conflict might spiral into a harassment accusation. Others argue that every system has potential loopholes, and it's better to fine-tune the rules than throw out protections. The outcome of the Lively-Baldoni suit could shape legislative conversations about how to maintain the spirit of Talk or Me Too protections while preventing exploitation by powerful individuals. As the legal saga marches forward, it's clear that whatever verdict emerges will leave a lasting mark on those involved. For now, each side clings to its version of events. Lively as an empowered survivor standing up to alleged workplace intimidation, Baldoni, as a creative professional, blindsided by a star who demanded control and disguised power, grabs as moral crusades. Both stories can't be wholly true, and the final say belongs to the courts, or possibly the jury. In Hollywood, where fortunes and loyalties shift in an instant, alliances can unravel at the slightest hint of scandal. Every day, new revelations deepen the rift or spark fresh questions, ensuring that the public's interest remains locked on this extraordinary feud. While some watchers predict an eventual out-of-court settlement, the air is thick with tension, as if both parties are too deep in the brawl to back down without a definitive resolution. And so we arrive at the real question. Is this entire saga the result of genuine wrongdoing, or is it an elaborate chess match for creative dominance and personal vindication? Perhaps the truth sits somewhere in between. But one thing is certain. The meltdown is far from over, and the final outcome will reverberate throughout Hollywood, reminding everyone that when money, power, and celebrity collide, the result can be an unpredictable mess where no one leaves unscathed. The Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni legal dispute isn't just another Hollywood squabble. It's a collision of high-stakes careers, big money, and a newly minted law that has become the center of a tug-of-war. Viewers at home watch in fascination, uncertain whether a beloved actress manipulated the system or whether a charismatic co-director is crafting a counter-narrative to hide wrongdoing. Ultimately, this high-profile battle underscores how fragile reputations can be, even for the most carefully curated stars. It also shows that the drive for control, legal or creative, can push individuals to extremes they'd never imagined. No matter how this clash ends, it will leave behind a trail of lesson-filled cautionary tales about power, integrity, and the cost of fighting in the spotlight. Celebrity feuds aren't new, but few have showcased such a potent mix of legal innovation, personal rancor, and media spectacle. In time, courts and public perception will pass their judgments. Until then, we're left with a murky swirl of accusations, defenses, and unanswered questions, reminding us all that in Hollywood, sometimes the greatest drama happens when the cameras stop rolling.